Hey YouTubers, I hope you're enjoying the content. Before we get to today's video, I want everyone to go hit that bell over by the subscriber button so you're notified every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. Hey YouTubers, some breaking Saw Legacy news for you guys today. In fact, because of this news, we probably won't be calling it Saw Legacy for any time in the foreseeable future if this actually ends up being true. Now, just to kind of put all the cards on the table, I knew about this news a couple weeks ago and I kind of refrained from actually doing this particular video until I saw that other reputable news sources were basically covering it as well. And I saw Bloody Disgusting covering it yesterday, so I just wanted to basically get my gears together and actually make this video when I possibly could for you guys. You know, for the people who don't necessarily go and check this stuff as often as I do or anything like that, probably don't see it or wait for me to cover the news because they know that I bring some reputable, like real sources, real news, stuff that can really be talking about. Even if it is just rumor, I don't necessarily just want to go off the first link or anything that I see to indicate whether or not something is actually a rumor or not. I actually put a lot of time and effort to make sure I'm bringing you guys some really legit news. And if it's a theory, I want to tell you guys that it's a theory up front and personal, that it's not necessarily just me, you know, reporting something that isn't necessarily true. When there's theories, there's theories. When there's discussions or news, the news will always try to be the most accurate as possible. But just getting into this, Bloody Disgusting has reported, and it was on the MPAA website for the last couple of weeks, that instead of Saw Legacy, it looks like Lionsgate is actually kind of gearing to make the film called Jigsaw. And what's really cool about this is just a couple things. You know, personally, going back Saw history date, you know, basically just the Saw fandom knowledge-based situation right now is one of the things that James Wan and Lee Winnell wanted to call Saw before it actually became Saw was they wanted to call it Jigsaw. You know, personally, because he was the main antagonizing force of the first film, and it just made a little bit of sense to name it after your antagonizing force or your antagonist for that film. You know, it just didn't, you know, history will show that it didn't actually happen that way, and they just went with the name Saul. But this is kind of cool if this actually ends up being true, because Jigsaw is what they wanted to call it. This whole franchise, this whole story is about like coming full circle and everything like that. So even if this is just basically a soft reboot, which I'm really thinking that it is, considering the fact that only Tobin Bell is coming back and not Costas Mandylor, Costas Mandylor, Shawnee Smith, or Carriolis, it seems like this is going to be a soft reboot set within the same timeline scope and everything from the original 7 films, but with all that playing out, it's not going to be the forefront of what happened. So you don't necessarily, I bet you don't necessarily need to go into this film having watched all of those films, but it's really going to help your viewing experience if you do. But with all that being said, it's really kind of cool to me that they're going full circle with this. You know, another thing I want to say, this is just my personal taste, I really never liked the subtitle Saw Legacy. It's not that it wasn't necessarily the best thing ever, it's just that Legacy as a subtitle necessarily, it isn't really the most creative, if you ask me. It's overused. Everyone is about, like, most or many franchises have used the concept of Legacy as their subtitle, and personally, just asking me, I understand business-wise why they're not going with the Roman numerals anymore, but in just my personal opinion, I like the Roman numerals, considering the fact that it helps you keep chronological track of what happens in what film and what's the chronological order to watch those movies. One of the things I feel like a lot of people have trouble with, or one of the things we're actually going to have a lot of trouble with as we get further and further away from these movie crazes or all this other stuff going on, is what movie comes first. And it's not going to be easy knowledge when you have movies that have, like, you know, one, or, you know, this movie with this subtitle, this movie with this subtitle, this movie with this subtitle. I mean, right now it seems like child's play to sit there and go like, yeah, like, it's Captain America, the First Avenger, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and then Civil War. But you ask people 20 years down the line who don't necessarily know about that, if the Marvel Universe still isn't going by then, but even still, you have those movies and you're going to be asked, like, okay, what's the first one? It's like, well, I don't know. You know, when you have Roman numerals saying this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it gives you an order to watch them in. And when you start breaking that chain, you start completely tearing that chain apart. Another franchise that I really love who actually did this and decided to change it more recently was the Rocky franchise. Rocky had Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then Rocky Balboa, and now with Creed. But those are kind of easier in that sense. It was like, but at the same time, you know what I'm getting at. So I never necessarily liked any subtitling situation. I understand why you do it. You have a sequel effect, and people don't necessarily gravitate towards the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th film of a franchise. So it's worth kind of getting them away from that concept and kind of pushing them into some kind of general direction of, yeah, this is something new or this is something fresh. And even if it is a sequel, it doesn't feel like it because we've kind of touched it up with some kind of easy name or subtitle or something that doesn't make it seem like this is an 8th film in the franchise, and I completely understand that. Another reason I really like this Jigsaw thing is because it kind of reminds me of the whole Logan thing we saw earlier this year. We kind of get away from the X-Men or any kind of concept of Wolverine, and you push something that is also recognizable but not necessarily the same thing, anything of the same thing that we've seen before, and at the same time, it is recognizable, and people are going to go, oh yeah, I know who that is, or I know what that is, or something like that, and they're going to go see it either way. So the title itself makes it seem fresh and artistic, and one of the things I really like about this particular film is we're going to have to wait to see the quality, but as I've said in other videos, Jigsaw, if it is Jigsaw or Saw Legacy, whatever you want to call it at this point, at least for me, whatever you want to call it, but we'll see when we actually start getting real material like a trailer. But so I absolutely love the creative team behind this, and honestly, I'm very excited to see where they take this and how they basically play it out. It's going to be really interesting for me to experience this particular movie, not only because of, you know, my love for the franchise, but also the people they brought in are high caliber and quality filmmakers. It's not that we didn't get those in the beginning, it's just, you know, with a movie franchise that's gone on this long, it's weird that they actually get such amazing talent to work on this stuff, especially it's been dormant and all this other stuff. It makes me feel like Lionsgate really has the push and drive to make these films really good, and I would be very, very surprised if they're not building another franchise, another trilogy or something, you know, something to get us to 10 Saw films, 11, 12, however they want to do it. Let's just hope that this time around they don't try to like give us one every single year, and if this is actually really good, we want the Spirig brothers and everyone else to come back for the next one if they will. So we give them time to kind of just, you know, kind of let themselves think about what the next idea is and put the right words on paper and the right footage on screen to give us another good sequel if this one actually is as well. So hopefully that's what this comes onto. With all that being said, I think the name is something that's really important here. And because Saw Legacy is just, I understand like the numeral thing, like I said, but at the same time, just kind of an uninspired name. Jigsaw is a much better name with a lot more recognition from the community as a whole. People who like Saw versus people who even just kind of remember it back when they were kids, or even just new people who haven't seen these movies, because there's going to be a ton of them after all this is said and done who might remember it from their very early childhood, but haven't necessarily ever seen one and might want to go to the theater, sneak in, or buy a legal ticket or something to see this film. And I think that this is actually a really good name for this. The last thing I want to say here, one of the cool things about this movie, in my opinion, is the fact that Jigsaw was my title for my fictional Saw television show that I've been pitching on this channel for a while now. You know, whenever I have time or anything, I have some ideas and I have a lot of other things I want to put out there, more of my pitch on why I think it would be a good television show, and basically building up episode by episode or something if I can actually get the time, and then also, you know, characters and ideal casting and all this other stuff that I can do for that. But I always thought to myself, and one of the reasons I love this title change is because this is actually something that I think is recognizable for the fan base, but not necessarily something that we've ever seen before. And it kind of indicates that, yeah, this is actually like a legitimate real sequel for this. So those are all the reasons I think that this is actually an awesome title change. I really hope that they keep pushing forward with something like this and give us more and more reason to actually love or get to see everything that we want from this particular story or this particular series. Hopefully, because of this and everything else that they put into this film, if they do market it right, we're going to be seeing way more of these. And I don't know whether they're going to be doing Jigsaw 2 or Jigsaw Legacy or something like that. But I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see. Honestly, that's putting the cart before the horse at this point. So Tell me what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you like the title change? Do you think that it should be Saul something else, or Saul Legacy still, or something like that? Any thoughts and opinions on that? The creative team, the story, all this other stuff, the soft reboot idea I was talking about, my television show idea, you want to see more of that? Anything I've mentioned here and anything that y'all want to just throw out there, theories on anything about the story or anything else, just make sure to leave those in the comment section below, because I really want to hear what you guys have to think about this. What are y'all guys' theories, or just all your thoughts in general? Because if there's anything that I think everyone watching this and has definitely gotten this far has in common, is the fact that we have an amazing love and respect for this series, and we really want to see this film be good. And I feel like this is just one of those next step in the direction of this movie being good. And they're having a lot of confidence in it, even though I have in the past complained that they're not necessarily marketing it. I know that they know what they're doing. They did it before, it worked out perfectly. I understand the strategy. So I love the title change. I love everything that they're doing. Hopefully it's good. Fingers crossed, and I can't wait for October. I hope you guys can as well. And I'm going to catch you on the next video.